Welcome to Catch the Craze. We are the heart of the industry.
I'm so crazy. You so crazy. Crazy. Who's the craziest? I'm so crazy. You so crazy. Crazy. Who's the craziest? I'm so crazy. You so crazy. Crazy. Who's the craziest? I'm so crazy. You so crazy. Crazy. Who's the craziest? Now who's the craziest? Now who's the craziest? Now who's the craziest? Now who's the craziest?
Coming this summer, Daystar Studios fantasy thriller, The Quest. Check your local comic shops and visit www.daystar-studios.com.
Man, I've been working forever on this project. Nobody knows about me, my company, or anything that I have to offer. I don't have the budget for those big advertisements in those magazines. I mean, I can afford a little bit, but how do I know I'm getting my money's worth? What's a guy like me to do?
I hear you. I understand. Let's make it happen today. Visit CatchTheCraze.com. We have all kinds of packages for all types of budgets. So you want to expose your product? What are you waiting for? Visit CatchTheCraze.com right now. Let's make it happen.
Welcome to Catch the Craze podcast audio mix. I'm your host, Sam the Crazy Man Vera.
Michelle St. Martin.
And we have a very special guest on the show. We ran into this cat at the New York Comic Book Spectacular. And his name is Frankie B. Washington, and his comic book company is Frankie B. Washington. And the product is called Peace. And I'm trying to hang up this phone so we can... And his product is called Peace, and we have samples of his material, and we're going to get into it. But before we talk about the book, let's talk to Frankie. What's going on?
Hey, dude, nothing much, man. I'm actually working on the issue 2 right now, lettering.
Awesome. So before we even get into Peace,
all right,
let's get into the beginning.
Let's get into Frankie.
Yeah, let's get into
all right. Climb on in.
All right, hold on. I think I got to leave the room. So let's talk about little Frankie. Where were you born?
When was I born, or where?
Where?
Okay, I was born in Jamaica Plain. Well, born in Boston.
Okay.
And I grew up in Jamaica Plain.
Boston, is that where New Kids on the Block are from?
Yep.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
Right, New Edition too.
There you go. So what was it like growing up in Boston?
Well, I grew up in the projects, man, and it was like, I'm a kid of the '70s,
mm-hmm.
and it was very close knit. I mean, it was one of those things where, like, if the kids were outside and stuff, if you did something wrong, everyone knew.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like old school like that. My mother worked, and I pretty much raised my younger sister.
Right.
And and it was just like that. Did a lot of like dreaming. Dreaming about trying to get out the hood. The projects.
Yeah.
For better stuff. So.
Right.
And it was good that my mother kept pushing that into my head. Like, she was like, you gotta get an education. You gotta, if you want to have a home or a house or, that kind of thing, property, you have to strive for more.
Right.
So that pretty much was it,
Now, did you have any brothers or sisters?
Yes, I had my older brother, he was living in Alabama at the time. So I didn't really grow up with him. And then I had a younger sister, a year younger, and it was pretty much just me and her.
So what were some of the things that influenced you as a child?
Oh, man. As a kid, I mean, it was a great time because there was a lot of cool stuff on TV at the time. I mean, you had Captain Bob. You had, let's see.
Captain Bob?
Remember Captain Bob?
I remember Captain Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo, but there used to be a show called Captain Bob. It used to come on Channel 5.
Really? And
it was just this cat, this guy who, he was a captain of a... he sort of was like a captain on a boat kind of thing, but he would draw.
Is this a local show? Was this a local show?
I think it might have been. See,
like Romper Room or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you remember Romper Room, yeah. Stuff like that. But Captain Bob was cool because he would draw. Like, he would sit there and he would draw out stuff in crayons.
Nice.
And he would really push his creativity, like, create stories and stuff like that. So he was a cool guy to watch. But also, there was a lot of cool, like, cartoons back in the day. I mean, I used to watch Shazam.
Shazam!
Remember that?
Yes.
Dude,
you kidding?
Amazing.
Shazam?
Yeah. When the Twin Powers activate?
Oh, yeah, there you go. That stuff. Godzilla, the Godzilla Power Hour. There used to be Spider-Man and Amazing Friends. I'll take you guys back, man.
Sid and Marty Krofft.
You know, you guys, I mean, back in the day on Saturday was packed with cartoons.
Saturday made you work really hard in school so the time could go by fast, because when Saturday morning came up, it was over.
Also, you didn't want to be bothered. It's like, I'm in front of the TV, I am not moving.
Well, hey, you guys must remember Creature Double Feature.
Yes. Oh, Creature Features? Are you kidding me? I was so scared of that.
Yes.
That's right, man.
There was Chiller Theater, Creature Feature, and Fright Night.
That's right, man.
Yes.
They would let me stay up at midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning to watch Fright Night. You believe that?
Yes. And there was and Saturday they had, what is it, after school theater?
Yep.
After school special.
That's right.
Wednesday at 3 o'clock.
And on Saturdays.
And on Saturdays, too?
Yeah. On Channel 7.
Yeah.
It was at 1 o'clock.
Really?
Yeah, because I watched my Saturday cartoons, then we would leave.
You're right.
I'd watch the Saturday special, then I'd leave and come back at 3 o'clock for the Kung Fu flicks.
Yes. The 3 o'clock movie. Oh, yes.
That's right.
Remember?
Yeah.
We could talk about this all day.
That's what I'm saying. But see, you think about that time, man, and I mean, it was just so much wacky, so much great stuff on TV and stuff, and even comic books too. I mean, you know, that it was like if you were artistic, it just pushed you to another level.
I think it was all acid influenced, if you ask me.
Yep.
Acid was big in the 70s, and
it was all those tacos.
A lot of these big executives were a lot of nice mushrooms growing everywhere. Anyway.
Mushrooms. Oh, man, this girl's crazy.
I know.
Mushrooms.
Anyway.
So, what, did any of that inspire you to be creative?
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, the first comic book I ever had was I think it might have been Amazing Spider-Man.
Nice.
And I remember my mother giving me money, and I went down to there was this guy who, he had a store, but it was like an old school bus that he transformed to a store.
Cool.
And I don't know, it was just this dude, man. It was in the projects and stuff. So I remember going down there, and I purchased a Spider-Man book. It might have been Amazing Spider-Man, and that was like the start of it, man. When I opened that book, I was like, oh my God, you know, and immediately I just was like pulled into wanting to trace the pages, and you know, it was just the coolest thing in the world.
Right.
So that, I would probably say that was probably the start of it.
So what did that inspire you to do?
Oh, well, just to draw and just to, you know, it was like the storytelling. I mean, the character Peter Parker, I mean, I identify with that, you know. I wasn't like a nerdy kid, but, you know, I was like a kid who was into Godzilla.
Right.
You know, and all my friends, like, you know, martial arts movie and stuff, but it wasn't like I was going out playing sports all the time.
Right.
And stuff like that. So that was like you know, when you read that book, it was like, I identify with this, but then he's still cool. He put that mask on, and he does these superhero feats, and then, you know, it was that kind of thing. So it was like I identified with that.
Right. Mm-hmm. Right. So what was the first? Were you just drawing, or did you decide, hey, I want to create my own characters, my own worlds? Mm-hmm. What was the first characters that you created?
Well, I think for me, I sort of was drawing all the time.
Right.
But also, I had such a vivid imagination. I mean, my imagination has always been, like, out there.
Right.
And I've always been one of those people where I would create stuff on epic levels. I couldn't just create something small. Like, you know, I'll be like, well, you know, here's a world, and I'll start getting detailed about the world and stuff like that. You know, some people would just create one character, and they'll be like, well, the character saves the princess, and that's it. Right. For me, I have to know the character's name. What region he comes from. You know, it's almost like Lord of the Rings kind of stuff.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I was always like that. That just was just one of the things where, you know, my imagination was just insane.
Nice. So, can you remember the first time you created your own world and what it was?
Oh, man. Shoot. It's been so much. I mean, I think there was a world that I created. It was a basic thing, too. It was almost on the line of, like in most cases, I would always put myself as a character.
Right.
So I think that I was like this character who could, was like a shape changer.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saving like this princess. It was this girl that I liked, man. And then so I interjected
Ain't it
her
always?
into this thing. You know how it always turns. It's like I interjected her into the story, and then I'm battling some bad guy. But you know, I don't think I ever gave it a name. It was more like it was just something that was in my head.
Right.
And then I would always jot down little things and stuff, and be like, yeah, you know, and in this episode I would save her, and you know, and I'll battle the bad guy and stuff like that. And it was one of those kind of things. It wasn't anything that was really concrete. It was just like I just had these a lot of just various ideas, and I just sort of just lumped them together.
Nice. So, at what point did you decide? Did you actually go to school for this?
Well, what I did was I graduated in '88, and then I immediately went into art school. And the school I went to was called Viterra School of Art, which is it was a great school, still a great school. It was a commercial art school, so pretty much it was a school that it pretty much taught you to work. As soon as you graduated, you had to find work.
Right.
You know, but what happened was while I was going to school there, it just the teachers were really good teachers, because what they did was they expressed the fact that I already had the skill, I already had the ability to do what I'm doing.
Right.
But they were just going to just come in and just help amplify that, just add on a little extra stuff, just to show me some of the little rules and whatever that exist out there, but the walls of the school. And then from there, I would just take it and just make it my own. It was during that time where I began thinking about doing my book piece.
Right.
And I began formulating an idea of trying to do a comic book.
So, all right, you want to create your comic book. What made you, or what possessed you to decide, hey, I want to self-publish?
Well, I mean, the thing that motivated me was, I think during that time, I actually had a chance to meet, was it Kevin Eastman? Yeah, it might have been Kevin Eastman. It was at a Boston comic book show run by Dave Cummings. And Kevin Eastman was there, and I met him, and I remember drawing a picture of the Ninja Turtles, because I loved them at the time. I was like, oh man, I love the Ninja Turtles, and I drew a picture, and I walked up to him, and I presented the picture to him, and he was just a cool cat, man. He was like, he just looked at me and he said, well, I like what he's like, I like what you're doing. He's like, I like what your style is, and I can see that you're definitely someone committed to want to do something with comic books. And he just said, just continue. He just told me just to keep continuing.
Right.
And he said, if you really want to do something, he gave me a small little story about, because I think I might have asked him, like, why didn't he ever, or him and Peter Laird ever put the books through Marvel or somebody? And he gave me like a quick little summary saying that, pretty much Marvel wanted to just keep it, like,
right,
control everything. And he was like, nah, we're not going to do that. And I think when he said that, that kind of set off a spark in me, where it was like the fact of being independent, and that you possess the power to do what you want to do without the I don't know, like the control of somebody else, like somebody else saying, look, you can't do this,
right,
or control it. And I guess that I think that might have been the start of it.
Right.
From that point.
All right. So now you're at that crossroad, and you're like, okay, there's a control issue that I'm not willing to sacrifice. Now, am I prepared to see this from beginning to end? And invest the time and resources involved to do this.
Yep.
And did you get to that crossroad where you're like, all right, now, if I'm going to do this self-publish, how am I going to do it?
Yep. Well, what happened was, again, during that time, I was, pretty much a kid, right. and really just an artist. I had no understanding of business, and I hooked up with two other friends of mine. And all of us, we really didn't have any idea of what the business aspect of trying to put a comic book out.
Right.
So what happened was I had borrowed some money, and we did the first book, and we went through, I believe it was Brenner.
Right.
And, we had
Brenner.
to get... Yeah?
They don't they have a specific limit, minimum?
Mm-hmm. I can't tell what the limit was, but it was a lot of money at the time.
No,
I just remember that it was a big. It dug really big into the amount of money that we had.
Right.
But at the time, we didn't know. We were
right.
just like, oh man, we were just pumped about the fact of just getting that first book out. We didn't even think about even trying to do other books.
Right.
We were just like one book and whatever. Just the fact that we got this one book printed up. So at the time, we didn't think about the bigger picture of what self-publishing is about.
Right.
And that's something that I think over time you kind of learn. You have to kind of stumble and fall a little bit.
Right.
Get yourself scratched up a little bit.
Right.
Before you can really understand that this is a lot. It's a big, big thing.
Right.
Once you commit yourself to trying to self-publish. But, we attempted, and we got the first book out, and we were doing a couple of little conventions and stuff like that. But then as soon as the money started dwindling out and we weren't able to recoup any cash back, real cash,
right.
That's when it sort of died out.
Right. So, do you still have books left over from that print?
Oh man, I think I did the messed up thing, and I think I trashed a lot of the first copies that I had of piece, because I had a ton of them left over. But I think I have like a few, just a small number of them.
What they require you to print like 1,000?
Yeah, it was something like that. It was like a huge number, man. I can't recall, but I remember it was just something big, and there was no way we can move them, man.
Right. I mean, it seems to be the same thing with a lot of independents that got caught under the big printer web, where you can the minimum is 1,000.
Oh yeah.
And 5 years later they still have
exactly.
What I mean? And which is why print on demand is such a great.
Oh, you telling me, man? That's the only reason why I'm doing Peace now.
Right.
Because of that, I mean, I got a mortgage now, and I work and everything like that. So one of the things I did was, by the way, I just got married.
Oh, congratulations!
Yay, congrats.
Yeah, I'll add that in there. I just got married. So, but my fiance beforehand, when I spoke to her last year, I said, look, I said, I really want to try to do something with Peace. I've been working on it off and on, writing and stuff like that. And I said, but I said the main thing is that I do not want to jeopardize our finances.
Right.
Dealing with the house. I want to keep this as my own separate little hobby thing.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that I said, well, let me just do some looking around and see what's out there. And I started seeing this whole print on demand thing, and I was like, you know what? It's not going to break the bank.
Right.
And I don't have to end up getting 1,000 books. You know. So I was like, I think this might work.
Right.
So.
Right.
And that's why I got the book now.
So now. As a self-publisher, did you realize how much work is involved?
Oh, yeah. I tell anybody now, because I'm doing everything. I'm doing everything myself, and I'm one of those people. Again, like I said, I'm old school. I'm like a lot of the artists that I love, like John Byrne, David Summers, Romero, those guys. And George Perez. I really try to emulate them. So I end up trying to sit there and drawing tons of panels.
Right.
So it's time consuming. And for me, it's like I've been trying to work on just pacing myself so that so I set up sort of like a schedule, because I began drawing actually that Zero issue back in 2005. Mm-hmm. But in 2006, I actually put it out.
Right.
So it's kind of like I wanted to give myself like a year ahead. Sort of like a jump, so I won't get into the crunch deadline kind of thing.
Right.
Right.
Right. So, all right, you decided to come out. Now you're doing. Who else is involved with Peace now?
Well, my wife, she pretty much does like the covers, and she also does like the proofreading.
Right.
Okay.
So, but pretty much it's just me. I do most of the drawing and just creating of the storyline and stuff like that.
Right. Okay. So now. Given the fact that now it's just you, what you got your book, what are you doing or what have you done to expose it to a wider audience, and who are you targeting?
Well, I think what I've been doing is I went on a site called comicspace.com.
Right.
I did that. I went on digital webbing. I bought some ad space in their book, issue 33 of Digital Webbing Presents. I bought some ad space in a couple other little books and stuff. I still know that the big guy is Diamond.
Right.
But my problem is that Diamond has become something that's really weird, man. It's like they have a lot of criteria, more criteria than they had back in the day.
I've heard this before.
Hello?
I've heard this before.
Yep, and it bothers me, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I got other people who are trying to do their books, and it's like this weird kind of thing that Diamond has where they're critiquing people, and you got to pay stuff, and it's just really weird. They're not like how I remember them.
Right.
And so my thing is that at this point, I've been sort of just still on the fringes. Like I go through Comic Express, they print and they sort of do the distribution and stuff, and they and people who come to my website and stuff, I pretty much tell them to go there if they order the book, and you can rate it and whatever. That's pretty much what I've been doing so far, and then I've pretty much got booked at I'm going to be attending the November New York show. What is that called? The
National?
The Big Apple?
Yeah, the National. I'm going to be there.
Okay.
So I got a booth there. So honestly, on the whole marketing kind of thing, I've been really low key on it. I'm still, I'm looking to try to get at least 4 issues out this year, and then I'll see how next year looks. Mm-hmm. I'm really on the fringes with Diamond, though. I'm not sure yet on how I'm going to deal with those guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So now, who's your audience?
My audience, I would say everybody. I mean, again, it's like I thought about it at first, and I was like, man, when Marvel was putting books out and stuff in DC back in the day, there was a lot of stuff that they put in their books where it was like, people would get killed and things like that, and language and stuff like that. So it's kind of like I read it,
Right.
and I didn't have a problem with it. So I look at it like everybody can read my book.
Right.
I'm getting like an early heavy metal kind of vibe.
Oh, my book?
Yeah, which is a compliment. It's
Nice. No, I love it, man.
kind of like, it reminds me of like Mobius or something like that, with something like a really like intense storyline with a lot of subplots involved.
Yep.
So that's what I'm getting from it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, my feeling is that I would love for my book to be like in a flair of like a European comic.
See? That's what I'm thinking.
That's it, yeah.
Metal hurlant or heavy metal. That kind of thing.
That's fantastic. I love that because I love that kind of storytelling.
Yes, so do I.
So definitely, if people can look at that and go, "Wow, man, that's sort of like Lieutenant Blueberry or Moby," that's awesome, man.
Right, I'm reading your kid on the train, and I'm like going, "Ooh, this is good," and everybody's like, "What is she reading?" Because they're seeing that I'm like really into it, and I'm like, "Oh, this is really like," and they're like looking over my shoulder, like, "What is?" And it's like 8:00, like at night, and I'm like, "Wow, this is like really cool." So yeah, kudos, man.
The toughest thing for me is that since I'm telling this massive story, one of the problems I had, because I also tried to bring peace back. There was another time where it was in 2001. I had joined forces with the wife, the wife of Stephen Hughes, Barbara Hughes, and her associate Shirley Sims, and they formed a company called Pitch Press. Pitch Press, yeah.
Are they still in existence?
Yeah, well, I don't know if they're still around, but what happened was I knew Shirley for a long time, and she was like, "Oh, Frank, you should try to bring peace," because people were like, "Hey, you should still try to bring it." So what happened was during that time, I had been sort of playing around with bringing peace back, and again, it's like I did the wrong thing, where I sort of rushed to do the story, and when we put it out, and we actually went to San Diego Con.
Right.
And people liked it. People were digging it and stuff. It was sort of like a half book, like it was half piece, and then the other side of the book had Shirley's character, the creep.
Okay.
And we had an awesome table at San Diego. People coming by. Books are selling. But the problem was that we were great with the bells and whistles, but we didn't have anything else afterwards.
Ah.
Yeah, we didn't. We went to a couple of parties, and people were like, "Oh, wow, let's see more." We met. I actually drew a picture from Mark Gillespie's daughter. Met him.
Wow.
And it was one of those things where people were like, "Oh, this is really cool. When's the next issue?"
Yeah.
But we didn't have a next issue.
Okay.
Right.
And that was like another hard lesson where I was like, after San Diego, I was really bummed because I was like, man, it's like I was like, what is this about? Is it just bells and whistles?
Right.
So that kind of I chilled after that, and I just kind of went back to doing what I do and stuff. And what I did was I said, Frank, you know what? You're not going to do peace until you actually sit down and just really figure out what kind of story you want to tell.
Right.
So after that point, I just got 2 notebooks, and I just went to coffee shops, and I started just writing down and sketching. And I didn't even think about doing a comic book. I was just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, so that if the time did come, and I felt really good about doing the actual book, that I would have something to work from.
Yeah, that's good to know. Yeah,
that was pretty much the start of it right there.
Okay.
Nice. So now let's talk about peace. What is the concept of peace?
Well, originally when I first did Peace was actually a character. He's and actually he's a Latino character. I'm African American and he's Latino.
Hey.
But the thing was that what happened was I based Peace off of a friend of mine who was Latino, and I really thought that he looked very interesting. He had the look that I just liked about him, and I said, all right, I think he could make a cool character. So I started working on this character who was really the original story was it was almost similar to Spawn. I remember it. I remember like Spawn came out maybe a couple months after my book came, like Peace.
Right.
And this is how like minds work. But when I read Spawn, I was like, wow, this is almost the same thing where some guy dies and then he comes back and then he wants vengeance. That kind of thing. So that's how the original story was. But then as time went on, I was like, man, that can't be what it's about. It has to be more. So the way the book is now, Peace represents all the characters. Every character that's in there, what each one of them is searching for, what peace means to them. The story in itself is about the life and death of a universe, my Omega universe, and from the beginning to end, and all the different players in it. You know, so it's definitely a multi-character storyline. It would almost be, I guess, in the veins of like Crisis on Infinite Earth.
Nice.
Okay.
It was going to be an ongoing series.
Right.
Right.
You know, but yeah, that's in a nutshell. That's the best way I can explain it. That it's pretty much about all the different characters that make up this particular universe.
Wow. Wow. So let's talk about how many issues are you planning on doing with this?
Ooh, I don't even know. I have 3 arcs that I want to achieve.
Right.
But at this point, I have no idea what the page count's going to be. I mean, the book count's going to be.
So it might be ongoing then.
It's ongoing, man.
Okay.
I mean, what was it? Service did 300 books? I'm going to try, man. I thought about it. I thought about it, too. I was like, man, Dave Sims did like 300. So I was like, man, I wonder if I could.
Wow.
And then, so at this point, I don't know. I really haven't. I have 3 huge arcs that I want to do, the beginning, middle, and end. So
Right.
however many books it takes, I'm going to try to do it.
Cool.
Nice.
Hey.
So, because I think the thing is that I'm not using comic books as my financial thing. Right now it's a hobby. It's fun. I'm having
Right.
fun with this.
Right.
So I'm not looking at it in a way where it's like, oh man, I can't pay my bills and that kind of thing.
Right.
If something happens, if people dig it, and next thing, bingo bango, I'm like Mike Mignola. That's even better. That's the like Hellboy. It's like, dude, that's like the what can I say? The cream, the frosting on the cake, dude. That's But for now, I'm having fun. And if people walk away from it, read it, and they get a good vibe from it, that's cool too.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now
So I'll just keep trying to put it out, man. That's and see where it leads me.
Right.
Okay.
And you talk about having fun, and I noticed that. Is this you in the book?
Yes. Well, that's the old me, dude. I'm always constantly changing. What happened was, I've gone through phases. I've had dreads. I'm trying to think. I think I was bald when you guys saw me. I'm actually back in the gym. I'm working out, man. Because I sat down and I said, you know what, dude? If I'm going to be going to cons, I got to try to look a little good, man. So I'm growing the hair. I'm growing a fro back. I got getting a goatee and everything.
Afro.
Oh, yeah, man. I'm taking it back. Getting a little soul. So, yeah.
Suki now.
Huh?
Suki.
But what happened was when I did the 0 issue, I was like, man, I couldn't find a way in which I could do something really, just some kind of quirky little something just to connect the story. I was having a huge problem. Then out of my head, bingo bango, I was like, you know what? Why don't I just inject myself into the story? So that's what I did. I sort of put it where it's like I became infused with the knowledge of this dead world, and pretty much I'm drawing out the story.
Right.
Okay.
And I liked it. I liked it. So my wife, she's in it for briefly in the thing, and she took some pictures, and then I just put it in there, and it just worked.
Cool.
Now, have you started sending your book to critics?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
So I'm waiting on some reviews right now.
Nice. Yeah.
I'm definitely tracking down people to do reviews and stuff like that. Definitely.
Yeah. Don't you hate the dreaded wait?
It takes some time,
Yeah.
It's weird because it's like I sent like the 0 issue off, and then I'm also sending out the I just got the issue 1 at Comic Express right now. I'm waiting for some copies I ordered. So as soon as I get those copies, I'm going to be sending issue 1 out to a bunch of people, and to you guys too as well. So
Excellent.
Awesome.
so it's like I'll just keep doing it, man.
Yeah, I mean, there's there's Jasma Online, Paul Dale Roberts. He does reviews.
Okay.
Broken Frontier. Silver Bullet comic books.
Nice.
They're all over the place. There are some that won't respond for a couple months, but there's some that respond immediately. Like Broken Frontier and Jasma, they respond immediately.
Okay, great.
So yeah, if you just go to
I will contact those guys.
Yeah. My cell phone just goes off the hook. Hey, it's crazy.
He's popular.
Well, the thing is that for you guys, I mean, I think it's awesome that this whole podcast thing it's blowing up, man.
Thank you.
I had no clue about this dude, to be honest with you. I was like very ignorant about it. When I saw you guys, I saw you, pushing your book and stuff. And I was like, all right, so you guys are pushing that. But then I remember one of you guys had mentioned that you were doing a podcast thing. I was like, oh, okay, well, podcast. Well, I was thinking of like iPod.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, people can have iPods and stuff. But, I went back and I started looking at it and going, wow, this is something really interesting. And when I heard I downloaded the interview that you had, I was like, man, this is sweet. This is something here, man.
Thank you.
So big kudos to you guys, man.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
It was one of those things where I just got upset that there's not enough resources for the little guys. And, and
there you go.
And me speaking as a little guy, I was like, you know what? Enough is enough. I said, I'm going to give something back to the small guy, by the small guy, and be consistent and not sell out to the big guy. It isn't because I resent them. I don't resent Marvel. I appreciate their work. It's just they have the capital, they have the resources, they have the they have everything that they need to expose their product to the right places. I mean, they're exposed to people we can't touch, we can't reach.
Exactly.
So my thing was to be aggressive in my campaign to make Catch the Craze, not just to create it and just to be a show where people go to but no one's listening.
Yep.
My thing was I have to get people to listen. How did I do that? And that's by over promoting, over marketing, getting into places people wouldn't necessarily listen to. And now you can download us on your cell phones. You can download us on your MP3s. I mean, you can watch us online. For those people who invested in a new Apple TV, you can watch the shows that we have, the video shows on the Apple TVs.
Awesome.
So it's one of those things. And this is why I appreciate having guys like you on, because it is for you and for us. You know what I mean?
Well, I think what's even great, man, what's really got me so pumped and excited that there's so many independents out there now, dude.
Yeah.
It's like a resurgence, man. Because again, my problem too, and again, I'm not sounding like somebody that's pissed off and really angry at Marvel and DC, but I just think that I do have a problem with people who think that the way those guys are doing stuff is the only way.
Right.
I have a huge problem with that, man. And it's like that's not the way it was. There were independents before, people stepping up, putting their own thing out.
Right.
Now, not everyone may like what's coming out. But it's okay, man, because there will be someone who's going to like something.
Yeah, that is changing, though, I'm finding. Yeah, definitely. It's not the only way. There's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think people are figuring that out once again, and they're willing to they're starting to take more chances.
Right.
And that's what we need.
Well, the saddest thing, too, was, like, I got in a conversation with some guys talking about remember, like, when you were a kid, man, when you got comic books, how addictive it was?
Yes.
It was like addictive. Like, you were like, man, I got to have this copy of New Mutants or whatever the book was. You just like, oh, man, I got to have it. But it's almost like that addictive quality.
Right.
Yeah.
It's almost done. Because me, personally, I don't collect comics. I buy graphic novels if they come out.
Right.
Certain graphic collected stuff. But some of the books, I'm just not as, my problem is that there seems like there's no investment into, like, a team. Like, remember how Chris Claremont was on X-Men, dude?
Yeah.
John Byrne.
Yes.
Those guys were there for a long
definitely.
time.
Right.
And like John Byrne was on Fantastic Four for a long time.
Right. But
it was like you could invest in it. You knew that if you were going to go and get that book, he was going to be in it. His art was going to be on the cover.
Right.
His work was going to be in there.
Right.
I remember, yeah.
Because there was passion involved, and there wasn't that all right, we need a new gimmick, we need a new catch, we need to market this, we need to cross licenses, we need to keep it moving and get new fans. I think what happens is back then you had the artists that really loved what they did, the writers that really loved what they did, they were passionate about it, and that was their full-time job.
Exactly.
Now they just, if you got a hot writer, put them on 50 books.
Yeah.
Burn them out.
What's up with that, man?
It's just what's happening, across the board. And what the funny thing is, I was at a convention recently and I had a conversation with one of a mainstream artist who's working for one of the big two.
All right.
And the thing is, and that makes them upset either when they're signing these exclusive contracts is, Marvel's going out seeking these creative guys out there, these artists, these dynamic artists.
Yep.
DC's hiring these people. But then when they join them, they want them to conform to their style. But the reason why you went after these people is because
It's because of how individual they were.
Right.
Oh,
So that's what happens where the fans get upset because that doesn't look like what I'm used to. That it's like hey, he's not. I'm used to more dynamic. I'm used to more of this. And it's like they want you to follow a pattern. They have this is our standard operating procedure. Follow it. And that's basically it. And you can't say anything because you're signed to an exclusive. And that seems to be, and it seems so. There's politics everywhere.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's there's pros and cons. Yeah, I signed it. I have a job for 2 years, but I'm not happy anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
You
That's
know?
the thing.
Yeah.
You know, are you happy? And the thing about it is that when I look at it, man, it's comics.
Yeah.
You know, not to downplay it, but really, it's not brain surgery.
You're not downplaying it. I understand what you're saying
You know
completely.
what I mean? I'm just saying, like, it's just, you know, it's supposed to be fun, man.
Right.
That's right.
You know? It's not supposed to be like, but again, you got these guys who will sit back there and they're just like, oh, what, well, you know, oh, well, this is like the second coming or something. It's like, dude, just do the comic.
Right.
Have fun with it, man.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, well, right now it's about capital.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
about
there you go. I
results,
know.
and it's about money,
Right.
and it's
Yep.
about and what can we get out of it, you know?
Right.
Instead of like Sam just said, the passion for
Right.
what
Well, you know what's sad is that even now, like, I look at stuff like, I don't know if you guys just saw it. Did you see Spider-Man 3?
Yes.
What was your thought on it?
All right. This is crazy. This is crazy. All right. People that before I saw it, there are a lot of people I know that've seen it, and they were upset by it.
All right.
I went and I saw it, and I enjoyed it for the fact that I loved Peter Parker's character.
Yep.
I loved when he went, when he was coming out the store dancing. I loved
Yep.
when he was standing there, he was pimping the girl for cookies. I thought it was just hilarious. I loved the quality of it. And people were upset about this, about that. I liked it because it was Spider-Man.
Yep.
And I think the director knows, and he loves the product. So, but people were like, well, there was not enough of Venom, there was not enough of this, there was not enough of that. And I was like, I laughed, I jumped, I laughed, I enjoyed it. But I don't know. What was your thought?
Well, the biggest thing about it, and I actually got a conversation with a friend on Friday about it, where the major thing is that I think that Sam Raimi didn't want to use Venom, and I think that he was kind of, I won't say forced, well, maybe coerced or pushed, not coerced, but maybe pushed to use that character, because he loves a lot of classic characters.
Right.
And if you look at the way the movie was, this movie could have went so many different ways.
Right.
It could have been like, you could have just had really Sandman, or you could have just really had, the Green Goblin.
Right.
The Venom character is a character where he really needs time.
He needs his own. It needs to be just a standalone.
You know what I mean? Exactly. And it's something that, if you look at it, it was. I think that I think maybe like Avi Arad and those guys maybe approached him and was like, well, I think that even in interviews, people have said that they approached him and was like, well, maybe you should just do it just because fans.
Right. I think, I agree in a sense, because from what I understand, the rumor that I heard was that they ran out of the budget. And so they, it was squeezed in, but they ran out of the fact because they over spent on the Sandman, the development on the Sandman, and the special effects for that.
Yep.
But at the same time, I think it would have been better if they ended with Venom entering. You know what I mean? So that way it goes into a fourth. You know what I mean? Somehow they ended it with the crash or whatever, and something happens at the end that's climactic that makes you you know what? I can't wait for a fourth. But but I loved. I love Spidey. I love Peter Parker. It was cool. I think Venom was just. I think it was rushed. I didn't understand how Venom and the symbiote should have had a different voice from the character.
Yep.
That wasn't there. And because it's its own entity, so it should have had a different voice.
I thought that the Sandman, like, remember when he turned like into a big monster?
Right.
And he was like roaring like a creature?
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of weird too.
Yeah.
I imagine him talking. Like,
Right.
He'd be like, well, you can't, whatever,
Right. I think they got into that Hulk syndrome.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Where they made the Hulk too big. Because in the Hulk movie, all of a sudden he's Godzilla.
And it made no sense. It's like, dude, he burst out his pants. There's no way his pants would stay on. It's like, why did you do that?
Yeah, I know. His pants stretched.
That was so cheap, dude. And the sad thing, I do own it.
Right.
And the only reason why I watch it is just for the scene where he escapes from the base and gets chased by the military.
Nah, I didn't go to the movies to see it. I caught it on HBO.
All right.
The only part of the film that the only part of the film I enjoyed was when he was fighting those wolves.
The dogs.
The demonic dogs from hell. But I just didn't. I think it was the wrong director for that film.
Yep, I agree with you.
The guy should have just gone back and done, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And
Well, you know what he could have done? He could have probably done a good job with Doctor Strange.
Probably.
Or like maybe Silver Surfer. Nah, maybe not Silver Surfer.
No, absolutely not. Stay with the comics. I mean, if he wants to do a book, let him do Weapon X when he goes back to Japan or something. Where you have those elements and that beautiful, like 300 cinematography where it's like a ballet. You want something like that, then get Ang Lee. But
Well, do you think that now, like with Marvel Comics, that now comic books are being so heavily influenced by movies?
I think the smartest thing Marvel did was to create their own film studio. That was the smartest thing because now what happens is, before they were limited because they had specific characters signed to specific movie studios,
and they were limited because they couldn't do an Avengers because one studio had Captain America, another studio had this guy. So now that they have Marvel Studios, they can do an Avengers film. They can do because they own the rights to their own characters. You know what I mean? So that was the smartest thing they did. I think what they need to realize is they need to take their time and not rush the product just for the sense of having another movie out there.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Because,
again, all about the money.
Right.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to.
I mean, they hit it out the at the ballpark with X-Men. Even though Part 3, I think that was just too rushed. The last one, but Spider-Man, beautiful. Again, the last one. Venom should not have been in the movie. It should have been the last part of it, or like lead into another movie.
Yep.
But they have this magic going on, and they failed with that magic with the Hulk. Because it's you gotta have the right team. And
they failed really bad with some. Did you see Man Thing?
Man Thing, I never even.
Oh yeah,
dude, Man Thing came out, man.
When?
Yeah, it came out.
It didn't come out in the theaters, did it? Though, didn't it come out on Sci-Fi Channel or something?
Yeah, it came out on Sci-Fi Channel.
Yes.
It was horrible.
No. I mean,
I couldn't even bear to watch it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, Elektra, I didn't see.
No.
Oh,
that was whack.
I threw her of all characters, man.
I was so pissed.
The only part of Daredevil that I enjoyed was Bullseye. He was the best character in Daredevil. The rest of them, I was like, what the hell's going on here?
Why not just do his origin?
Yeah, I mean,
why not just do Daredevil's origin with Stick?
The battle with Kingpin was like 2 seconds.
Exactly.
That whole little play thing in the playground with them, that was just nonsense. Her training should have been in a more advanced location. Yep. I mean, I just did, that pissed me off.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The problem with that was, again, you had this guy who clearly loved Joe Quesada.
Right.
All those guys, and he was just like, "Oh, well, I'm gonna do that story."
But yeah,
it's like, dude, there's stories before that.
Right.
Yeah, hello.
Which is why I loved what they did with Fantastic Four.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I laughed at Fantastic. I mean, I saw Fantastic Four at.
But that was a different director, though. That wasn't Tim's story.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it's Marvel. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
I love Fantastic Four. I mean, we're at a midnight showing, and we just came from Hooters having like five cases of beer, and normally I'd be at the theater sleeping. But but I stood away through the whole thing. I enjoyed it. I own it. I watched it all the time, and I'm looking forward to Rise of the Silver Surfer. Just the trailer alone gave me goosebumps.
I gotta admit, man, I'm getting chills myself, man.
Yeah, when he turned around and caught him by the throat, I was like, "What?" I was like, Hercules.
Hercules.
But you know what I'm saying? They have a magic going on. They just have to pace themselves. Because right now, DC needs to catch up to them. DC lost that magic.
Batman.
Yeah, Batman was good. I didn't like the Scarecrow because I didn't think they played him up enough. But they're doing the Dark Knight.
Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Yeah,
Superman Returns was good, but it didn't bring back that energy that I got from the first Superman. When I walked in, I enjoyed it, but it didn't give me that excitement that I got from X-Men.
Well, you know what he did? All he did was he just redid Superman 1. That's all he did, man.
And that's why they failed. Because they want to go back and try to retell the story, but the generations of people already know the story.
They already know the story.
They own the films. They should just go on and continue the movement. You know what I mean? And that's why people got annoyed. So now they have to play catch up.
Well, the biggest problem with Superman was I had a huge problem when he got beat up by those dudes. Mm-hmm. And I'm sitting there going, wow, this guy's like 6-something. He's been on Earth for all these years. He doesn't know how to fight.
Right.
He doesn't know how to physically like even in the movies, Christopher Reeve, he tried to fight.
Right.
That was cool. It was like, all right, you're still fighting. Right. It's like, come on, man.
I do think that it was the right casting. I mean, the guy was the right, perfect guy to play Superman.
Yeah,
Because
but
there were times where you're looking at him, I'm like, I thought I was looking at Christopher Reeve.
Well, yeah, exactly. But the thing is that I think that he made that Superman rely too much on his powers.
Right.
You know, like he's like, oh, gee, you know, I won't flinch because this bullet can shoot me in the eye.
Right.
It's like, come on, dude. It's like, you know, you got to put a little bit more something into him. And I didn't like Lois Lane.
Right.
I didn't like her, and I didn't like the kid.
Right.
That whole kid idea was just weird, and I didn't like the fact that Lex Luthor was still into real estate.
I did like that he was more venomous. I did more diabolical.
Like, he's a genius, man.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be this scientific genius. Like you gotta get this guy who's like this guy can literally build all these robots and stuff like this. Why not show that?
Right. But
instead of real estate, all he cares about is real estate.
What do you saw the trailer to Transformers? What do you think?
Ooh, I don't know, man. I work. Well, the thing is, I'm a freelance illustrator, so I've done work with some agencies who have done some parts with Transformers.
Right.
And so I had to actually draw some of the vehicles, the robots,
Mm-hmm.
and it's complicated, dude. I don't know, man. I think the biggest problem with that movie I have is that they totally got away from what Transformers is about. It's about the fact that they're very simplistic looking robots.
Right.
They're simplistic. They transform into vehicles. There's almost a human quality to them, the humanity of them. And I think that's gotten lost on Michael Bay, man. Like, he's in this weird state of mind where he's just like, you know, I saw some of the clips, and literally it looked like two junk pals fighting.
Right.
I couldn't make out anything.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's probably going to be the biggest thing. I mean, hopefully the story's going to be, you know, a really good story, but I don't know, man. It's just, like, Megatron to me, I'm just like, you know, I own like the Megatron toy.
Right.
Like the new version that they just put out, which is phenomenal. He's like the gun and stuff, and it looks incredible. You know, there's a design to him that's phenomenal. But it's like I look at this version of him, and it's just it's not doing anything for me.
Right, and I think that's the problem. Is like if you look at the original Transformers, the cartoon, and Transformers the movie, and you compared it to the newer versions, which were more anime-ish, you know, whatever. The newer ones weren't as successful as the older ones. Exactly. And the reason why is because they went gimmicky, and they went away, and they were trying to follow a trend, which like the Pokemon and the Yu-Gi-Ohs, whatever. And they failed to realize that there's a heart and soul already to it, and there's already a cult following. And that's what happens with the big movie pictures. I mean, when I looked at the trailers, and I was like, they look more like the Terminator type things than anything. And I'm like, come on, dude, what are you doing to us? And that's why I'm skeptical. I mean, I got excited when 2 years ago when we were at the San Diego Comic-Con. Actually, 3 years ago when we were at the first one. And they had the 18-wheeler Optimus Prime in the middle of the floor. And I walked by, and they have a big tarp on it because they don't want anybody to see it. They're going to unveil it this year at San Diego and take off the tarp and the whole bit. But I was like, wow. And we're all standing there like kids. And it was me and my whole team. We're supposed to go set up our booth, and we just stopped in the middle of the floor and just started taking pictures. And I was excited. I was like, oh, wow. But then when I first saw the clip, I was like, oh, don't do this to me. I said, please don't do this to me. And, you know, so that's what I'm a little apprehensive. You know, Silver Surfer, right? I'm excited for that. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, it looks great.
You know what I'm saying? But, you know, this, I'm like, you know.
I know. I mean, it's one of those things where, again, you get an individual. Like, I got in a conversation with some guys about it, and one guy brought up a good point. He said, in every Steven Spielberg movie, you always got to have a kid and some giant threat.
Yeah.
And if you sit back and think about it, it's true.
Yeah.
Every Spielberg movie, there's going to be a little kid who somehow is smarter than adults. Or like, you know, it's like the little kid in the monster. Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
The little girl is able to operate a high-tech system.
Yeah.
That if either one of us was there, we probably wouldn't know what to do. Yet she would know how to operate it.
Right. Yeah.
But the little kids,
Yeah.
same thing. You know, you can look at every one of his movies. It's always deals with a little kid. Close Encounters, a little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
And the same thing. You look at the Transformers commercials. The little girl, the little teddy bear.
But let me
out
ask
of the
you
pool comes Megatron.
Yeah, but let me ask you something. What do you think about War of the Worlds?
I hated it, man. I read the original. I read the original book, and I remember seeing the 1960s, 60 version, and that was pretty close to what the book was, almost close to what the book was about. But man, that one blew, man. The new version with Tom Cruise.
It pissed me off.
That blew, man.
It was so unrealistic on how we as a culture would act. It was rushed.
Oh, yeah.
I think it didn't. For me, there was no pacing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, what? Are you kidding me? I said, all this hype around this, and this is what... I think it has a lot to do with that Scientology stuff.
Oh,
I
please.
don't know, but I'm just...
Because if
yeah,
you think
I totally
about all
agree
the
with you.
movies that were, invested through Scientology, like, what was that other movie with...
Battlefield
Battlefield
Earth.
That
I
was
can't
just
even say it.
horrible. Battlefield Earth with John Travolta?
Please.
Oh, that was dead. Yeah, that was totally
I said, I'd rather see you do Grease again than to watch
Yeah,
this.
exactly.
You know what I mean? It was just pissing me off.
But I mean, with War of the Worlds, again, it just made no sense.
Right.
There was no sense to hold. Like, I love the fact, like, these gigantic, tripod creatures or whatever
Right.
were there already, and we didn't come across them.
Right.
Ever.
Right.
I mean, they come right out of the street. It's like, dude, you never came across them.
Yeah.
They never explained. See, that's what I mean. And he just hobbled together. But you know what? That doesn't matter because that movie made over $100 million. Over $100 million.
It went because of the names involved.
Exactly.
And because they had the market, but what about the money that they spent to make it and promote it and market it and all that stuff? You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Well, that's what Hollywood understands, though. They
Yeah.
understand money. That's the thing.
Right.
It's like just like what was it, Daredevil? I thought Daredevil sucked, but you know what? It made $70 million,
Yeah.
like in a short amount of time.
And it
So
spawned.
that was enough.
And it spawned Elektra.
Yeah, and it spawned Elektra.
Elektra
So the same thing.
is a good Sunday afternoon. You had nothing to do. Watch a movie.
Yep.
I didn't even go see Catwoman.
I
Oh,
haven't seen that yet. But
I still haven't seen it.
oh.
Considering that they had her with open toe pumps.
I wanted to throw my TV out the window.
I
I
said-
didn't even bother to look at it in the movie.
I love.
I didn't see Ghost Rider.
I didn't either. Yeah.
Neither
haven't
have
seen
I.
it.
I
mean,
haven't
I love
seen it
Holly's
either.
berries, but but I refuse to see Catwoman because in my eyes, Michelle Pfeiffer was the best Catwoman of today. She
Well, again, it was one of those things where
That was Selena Kyle.
if you listen to the director, the guy who originally was doing Catwoman, he purposely said, he was like, look, I don't want to do anything that's connected to the comic book.
right,
How do you do a comic book based movie and not have anything connected to the comic book?
right.
Right.
It's the same thing like the guy who did the first Punisher. Remember when the
Oh.
with Dolph Lundgren?
Lord.
Yes. Oh,
And I actually don't have a huge problem with that movie, but it was like the main thing that I had was that the director suggested that he thought it was kind of cartoony,
Right.
that he would have a skull on his chest.
right.
So he thought it made more sense for him to carve little skulls on his knife. Which is stupid. It's like, dude, that don't make no sense.
Yes,
No.
I mean you're interested in a character for the reason.
Yep.
What drew you there? Because of the concept. Don't walk away from it. you know?
If it ain't broke, don't
fix
fix it.
Yeah. What do you think of the new Punisher?
Well, I don't know if you probably heard the newest news is that Thomas Jan, he's not going to be doing it.
Really? Part 2?
Yeah, well, I think he walked away from it.
Part 2?
From part 2.
Why?
Because I don't know. I think that they might be going into another direction.
Oh.
My feeling on the Punisher movie was that again, it was like something that was really rushed.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get into what see. I love Death Wish with Charles Bronson,
Yes.
and I want to actually get the book to read it. But
Right.
the movie itself captures
Right.
everything you can imagine what a vigilante could
Right.
be. You know, like a realistic sense where you got a guy who, like my feeling on the Punisher. If I was to do the Punisher, I always saw the Punisher like he's a guy who literally sees the world different.
Right.
Because of what happened to his family. Like, when his family got killed, you literally get this guy who's the way he looks at stuff is so distorted
Right.
that even the way he looks at people would be almost obscured. Like, if he saw you as a criminal,
Right.
you don't look like a human to him.
Right.
Right.
You look like something totally different. And, like, he doesn't talk much. He just kind of acts.
Right. And
You know,
I think they failed with the lighting for the film. It was too
It was too bright.
right. I think they should have used a Sixth Sense type of lighting and setting for it. You've seen Sixth Sense,
Well,
right?
well, what they did? They used a lot of the new Punisher stuff.
Right.
Like, they used those new characters that was done by, who did that? What's that writer? Shoot. The guy who did, Preacher.
Oh,
Who's writing it now?
is it Neil Gaiman? No.
No, not Gaiman. No.
Not Grant Morrison.
No.
Who did Preacher? Oh God, come on! Steve Dillon did the art, and
Oh, my
the
God.
writer is. Shoot! I can't believe this.
Steve
Is that
Dillon?
right?
No, Garth Ennis.
Yeah, that's it. Garth Ennis.
Nope.
They used a lot of Garth Ennis's characters from the Punisher, the new Punisher stuff.
Right.
So it's like, dude, why do that?
Right.
Why not just go back into the past of this character?
Right.
And
7.
pull up
That's
some
what I
other
meant to say. Not Sixth Sense. 7. You seen
Yeah,
Seven,
very
right?
dark, very
I thought Seven,
atmospheric.
Yes,
Yeah.
that would have been a great like theme. Like,
Oh, that would have been fantastic.
for Punisher.
Yep.
You know,
I agree.
And it's funny because I am a big Spawn loyalist.
Yep.
And a supporter of Spawn and Tom McFarlane's Spawn. I mean, I think
He's my hero, man.
He's a genius, and he's the epitome of what a small press publisher is, and what an independent creator is, and a businessman. And he's smart enough to know when to step back and allow other people to do things, and
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, while he just creates this
That's
master
why I
empire.
respect him over some of the other guys that started the whole image revolution.
Right, and which is why
Yeah.
which is why when he was pissed off with the first Spawn movie, and he wasn't happy at all with the direction they went with and
Yep.
everything. So we were in San Diego and we got to see a trailer of what's to come with the next Spawn.
Really?
It's not with the same studio. The contract's over. He's dead. Tom McFarlane Productions are producing it,
Okay.
and it's more like Sixth Sense meets the Boogeyman.
Wow.
And it's not that comic-y. It's more like the dark shadows, and like Spawn is in the shadows, and they got Sam and Twitch in it,
Ooh,
and that's
nice.
perfect because I love
Nice.
those cops.
Yep.
And I think what's his name, Andy Dick would be a perfect Twitch. And there's this character on I don't know if you've seen The Wire.
No.
Oh goodness gracious, I can't believe
Yeah, I
it.
know. You know what happened? It's like I got into it a little bit, but then I just never got followed through with it, man. So I only saw like maybe a couple of episodes the first season. Is it?
Right.
I'll have to get that. I'll have to get it again, dude.
Well,
I'll check it out.
there's this detective on The Wire, right?
Yep.
And
Which one? The white guy, right?
the fat one, his name is he's played by
Like-
Delaney Williams.
The black guy.
No, the white guy. His name is Delaney. He looks just like Sam from Sam and Twitch.
Really? Okay. So I
Just
haven't-
like him.
okay.
If you look at the new Spawn characters,
Yep.
he looks just like Sam. I mean,
Wow.
it's beautiful. I would make a Sam and Twitch movie stand alone, just them. You know what I mean? Because right now, with all the things that they've been investigating and all that stuff,
Yep.
that'd be a perfect film. I don't know why Hollywood's not seeing that, but it's like they can do a Sixth Sense, or Seven with these guys. But I'm looking forward to the new Spawn film when it comes out. I mean, I'm hoping this year in San Diego he announces the release date, because last year it was supposed to come out this year. So hopefully maybe it's at the end of the year or for early 2008. But look forward to that, because that looks like it's going to be hot.
Well, see, you brought up a good point about like him. Like, I mean, I remember when the whole image thing happened, and I was really behind a lot of those guys
Right.
when what they were trying to do. Because I was like, they're trying to attempt something, but then while they were trying to do it, the one person actually two people who I really admired the most was Tom McFarlane and Mark Silvestri. And the reason why I respected those guys was the fact that they stuck to a game plan, to what they were doing. You know, like Tom McFarlane was doing Spawn. That's all he did.
Right.
He just focused on Spawn. And Silvestri was doing Cyberforce, but he still kept with the Top Cow stuff.
Right.
You know, doing his thing. The rest of those other guys, man, I was just like, you know. And the biggest thing that really got to me was seeing them, well, mostly like Jim Lee and Rob Liefeld, those guys go back to Marvel and work for them.
Right.
That was something that was kind of like, okay.
And that's where, the only failure from that crew was Liefeld.
Yep.
Because he just saturated the market with dozens and dozens of titles that there was not enough heart with. I mean,
Exactly.
he was successful with Youngblood, he was successful with Prophet,
Yeah.
but then he started putting up cyberpunks and this and that and this and
Well,
that.
that's the mentality, though. I think that's the mentality of a lot of stuff, even going on now, where people are in the mindset like, you know what, I'm just going to put out as much as I can,
Right.
and then
Yeah.
see what happens.
Right.
You know, and it's like, dude, sometimes you can't do that. Why don't you just work on one thing?
Right.
You know, that's the same thing. Like, unfortunately, that I think happened to Cross Gen, where I really was digging Cross Gen,
I think everybody
But-
was thinking of.
but I think what happened was Cross Gen had a plan,
Right.
and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, you know what? Let's put out more books.
Right.
You know, and it's like, dude, you're going to kill yourself. You're creating too much overhead.
Too much
Right.
too fast. Yeah.
No, and that another thing is, I mean, you had a guy who knew nothing about the comic book industry but had a lot of money.
Exactly.
And rather than, I mean, he started off the right way by hiring the professionals who knew more
Yep.
about the business, but then he wanted final say on everything, and that's where he screwed up, because
Yep.
then he overspent and assuming that the money's going to continue to come in, and then he had no capital to keep it going because
Exactly.
he just exhausted his resources.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I mean, it was the ideal. I mean, everybody was looking to CrossGen as the future because they
Yep.
were offering, medical and 401k and stock
Yeah,
options
yeah.
and bonuses and all this stuff, and they had their own internal printing press, and I mean, it was crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, everyone was like, "Wow, they're the future. They're the future," and damn, they just died. And
Yeah, I knew it was a bad sign when they did that pirate book.
yeah, they
That
were
was-
doing.
That was a bad sign because as soon as Pirates of the Caribbean came out, then you saw that pirate book come out,
Right.
and I was like, okay, this is the lifeline.
They were doing Way of the Rat. They were doing all these.
Yeah, it was all this weird other stuff. It
Yeah.
had nothing to do with what they originally went out to do.
Right.
was
I
like,
mean, I love Scion.
Yep. I love that.
I
Oh.
love Negation. I love
Yep.
the first. And I was like, dude, come on, And it just happens to everybody. And that's the same thing that happened with was it Dreamwave?
sure.
That same thing happened with them.
Oh, same thing that happened, dude. The Milestone.
Yeah.
I love Milestone. I was like, oh, dude. I was like, they're really doing some stuff here. But all of a sudden, I was like, you know what? Why don't you put some money into your, because at that time they were really doing like they started doing Ollie Optics. Was Ollie Optics starting to do all like coloring stuff?
Right.
All right. So what happened was with Milestone was that they were doing this weird kind of painting
Right.
color kind. It looked really muddy.
Right.
And I was like, dude, man, whatever money you have, try to make your product look good. Work on only a few books, and then make sure those books look phenomenal, and then you can build up.
Right.
We got to do at least 10 books.
Yeah.
And 10 books that look, like a muddy kind of thing. And it's
Right.
like, oh, dude, no, man, that's
Right.
going to kill it. That's going to hurt it.
Right.
And that's what happened.
And then they stopped meeting deadlines, and they stopped
Well,
being.
that's the thing.
and-
Getting late and stuff. You can't do that in this industry.
No.
It's just like even on TV shows. I just heard this whole thing. Like I haven't been watching all of Lost. Like what I'm going to do is I end up getting a series, and then me and my wife end up watching the whole thing.
Right.
But I'm hearing a lot of people are just pissed off with Lost
Right.
because I guess they've been on hiatus.
Right.
You can't do that, man.
No, you can't. I've never even actually seen an episode. I'm more of a.
Come on, heroes.
The Shield.
Yo, dude. Oh,
The Shield.
oh man.
The Shield is the best
Ooh.
series on
Oh, what a
television
phenomenal show, man.
today. There is nothing like the Shield. There could never be anything like the Shield. It's the best.
It's incredible.
It's beautiful.
It just keeps going on. It's like you look.
I'm addicted. I'm a crackhead,
It
and the
is, man.
Shield
It is.
is crack. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. I mean, every week I look forward to the next episode. I talk about it on my show. I do a show just on the Shield and the Sopranos. And it's just, I love it. And there's nothing like it. I mean, Heroes is a great show.
Yep.
As long as they continue the path and they don't get gimmicky, it's beautiful.
Well, that's one of the things. Like I stopped watching Smallville just because it's gotten so like the same old.
No, the Bizarro just ended this season with
Oh,
Bizarro.
yeah.
I thought it. That was the first time I actually sat there and I watched.
I had a geekgasm when I saw that.
Well, it was cool seeing him, but again, my major problem is that again, what happens? Clark is in the barn again.
Right.
It's always in the barn. Always in
Yeah.
the barn. It's like I keep seeing him. Nothing seems to move.
Right.
I haven't seen that show in months, and also I turn it on. Lon is in the barn.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, dude, get him out the barn, man.
Yeah.
It's like get him out the barn and do something, man.
Yeah.
But it was cool, dude, seeing. Because I knew when he said when the character said, "I'm a little bizarre," I said, "Oh,
I
cool."
said, oh, you were
That's
kidding
cool.
me.
All right, they're gonna do it, and then he became bizarre. I said, "All right, that's cool. That'll work."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm hoping that what happens is they're watching how Heroes is,
Right.
and then they just say, "Okay, you know what? We gotta step it up a notch."
Right.
That's how it's supposed to be.
Right.
The thing is that I guess my view on comic books, getting back onto that, is what comic books is that I looked at working for Marvel back in the day when I was a kid. When I looked at Marvel, I was like, man, that's like the Olympics. If you were to work at Marvel, at DC, it was the equivalent of being at the Olympics, dude.
Right.
That's the gold medal, dude.
Yeah.
You got the gold medal in your hand. Now you got to keep that gold medal.
Right.
But now, when Rob Liefeld and those guys came, that gold medal became tarnished a little bit.
Right.
You didn't see the level. Like, you saw guys not really even drawing, like really drawing sequential art. Like, I'm such a stickler on that stuff. I mean, I love trying to draw as much as I can. That's just me. I love the art of sequential art. I love that, trying to tell a story with visuals. I'll tell anybody, I'm not a writer. I consider myself more of a storyteller. And I tell stories with the visuals, and then I throw words to it and stuff. That's my strength. I don't knock, like, there are tremendous artists out there, but there are artists out there that can literally draw just visuals, and you don't even have to put words to it, and
Right.
it looks, and you still can tell a story. And that's the level that I want to try to achieve to some degree for myself, like to see, because every time I draw, work on the piece pages, in the back of my head, I'm thinking of all the greats before me.
Right.
And I'm like, you know what, man, not to copy by no means, but just to say, you know what, in that page, John Byrne, showed the thing getting punched to a building. And he showed every view of the thing going, there was one issue where he showed him just going through tons of cars. And I'm like, damn, I haven't seen anybody do that. So now what can I do?
Right.
And that's just how I am. I've always been like, I have a competitive nature about myself where I want to achieve, so that if people buy my book, that's another thing. Like, for me, I want to try to fill as many pages as I can of my book. It's a 24-page comic. So I'm going to try to fill as much as I can in there. I want people to, if you're going to put money down for my book, I want you to walk away going, yes, this book is filled with something. It's worth the $3 that you're going to drop for it.
Right.
And that's just where I'm coming from, man.
Nice.
It shows.
Yeah.
Thank you. And another thing too is like black and white. I mean, I had a lot of people that were like, "Oh, dude, I don't know about black and white."
Why not? I don't get that.
My thing against that is I say, look, dude, it started off black and white. Mm-hmm. That's how black and white, dude. If you can master black and white, you can master anything, dude.
I believe that.
I totally believe that. That's what I'm sticking to. Because at first I was like, man, like right now I'm starting like you'll see in issue 1, I'm starting to use a little more grays. Like I'm adding gray into it and stuff, but not overly. Like I'm actually doing it in a way that sort of like Frank Miller did with Sin City, because I love how he did stuff where he did some of a little splash of color here and whatever. So in some degree, I'm using that kind of technique to a certain degree. But again, black and white is it, man. You have to master that. I remember when I met Mike Mignola years ago when they had a New York con. It was, I forgot where it was at, but it was like I met him and I met Joe Kubert. And those are one of the most tremendous meetings I ever had. Like when I met Mike Mignola, first of all, he was a great guy. He was great, fun. But I remember he pulled me. We were talking, and I showed him my stuff, and he said, look, understand your positive and negatives. I said, positive and negatives. He's like, yeah. He said, understand. Once you understand that, you can do anything. Yeah. And I was like, wow, man. And he was just like, he said, look, and he was looking at my stuff. And he was like, I can tell you like using a lot of ink and stuff like that. And I said, yeah. And he was like, well, he said, just understand that. And he said, you should be in a pretty good place. And I said, all right. And then, of course, Joe Kubert, was like, all right, do this. He's like, work on your anatomy and all that kind of stuff. But it was great. It was awesome, man.
Right.
That helped to inspire me even more.
I hear that.
Nice.
So am I dragging you guys' ears?
No.
We're yapping, dude, man.
Yeah, nah. This is your spot, baby. So now, what would you? All right, I got 2 questions. Number 1, 25 years from now, you're sitting on your porch. Yep. You're looking out to the horizon, and you're contemplating on your life. You're reflecting. What would have been the ultimate goal? What would you have liked to accomplish? What would you like people to remember?
Ooh, what would I like to accomplish? Wow, that's deep, man.
Thank you.
But I don't know. Like, I guess for me, I would probably, because I remember years ago I taught kids art. So I've always dreamt. I said, man, if I ever had the loot, man, the money, I would love to have my own school, similar to how Joe Kubert has his school.
Right.
That would be an amazing accomplishment.
Wow.
But I mean, if I was going to say, it's kind of weird. I mean, if I was going to say for my book, I mean, I would love to be able to complete the series.
Right.
That would be the best accomplishment. Like if I was able just from the beginning to end, like that scene from 0 issue where the character, the turtle guy, Manoa, is sitting, in space and he's seeing the ends of the universe. To be able to finish that, that would be a huge accomplishment. Just to be able to go full circle with the whole thing, because that's pretty much the plan.
Right.
But yeah, that. But I mean, if I had the loot, dude, I really would love to be able to give back, and I would love to have my own school.
Awesome.
A school devoted to the art, sequential art.
Hey, I'll be a teacher there. I'd be a teacher there.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, I'm all for like I love people who want to come in and want to just really just do their thing and really just don't put the stranglehold on people. Let people, if you're going to hire them or bring them onto something, let them do what they're good at, man. I'm tired of people who are trying to just put the stranglehold on people. Everybody knows what to do. It's like too many damn chefs in the kitchen, man.
Oh, thank you for
That's what I mean.
saying
It gets me so infuriated. It's like just let them do what they do best, man, and then you will get perfection.
Yes.
You will get something beautiful and amazing. But if you put a stranglehold on people and you come with, you know, that, I mean, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but that's one of the reasons why I really stopped showing my samples, dude. There was times, like, I had, you know, I have some friends who were working in the industry and stuff, and I've been pretty fortunate, knock on wood, to do what I'm doing. I've been a freelance illustrator for 12 plus years, going strong. Worked with a lot of agencies, done some film stuff, I've done some animation. And I tried to get into the industry, man, but it bothered me when I met some of these editors who were just like, first of all, they were just kind of people who weren't really artists, or they were like people who didn't, you know, they were kind of like, well, can you draw like this person kind of mentality.
Yes.
That pissed me off, man, because in one degree I'm sitting there going, you know what, I'm making really good money with less headache.
Right.
And why should I submit myself to that?
Right.
Exactly.
You know, if somebody's saying, do you draw like a Jim Lee? Do you draw like... No, I draw like myself.
Yeah, thank you. It's not about achieving their level, it's about achieving my own.
Exactly. So my thing was, I've got to, like, I'm going to be 37 this year, so I got to the point where I was just like, look, man, you know what? I can't do it anymore. You know, if you're a young person, I'm not trying to dissuade any younger person, anyone who wants to try to get in the comic industry, but the thing is that, you know, if you're ready to be able to have somebody come along and tell you to do everything such and such, then that's on you.
Right.
Me personally, my personality just won't go that way because I've done a lot of different things.
Right.
So, you know, that's just my feeling, man. So I stopped really trying to show my samples around, and I think that's another motivation why I'm just doing piece the way I want to do it.
Nice.
You know, and so that people can look at it and they'll get a reaction. If you don't like it, then you don't like it. But if you like it, then that's cool. You get to see it's me, pretty much.
Right.
And not somebody over my shoulder saying, you know, you shouldn't really draw a lot of lines of work.
I hear you.
Crap and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
Right. So, if people wanted to find out more about you and your product, is there a website they can go to?
Yes. The website is www.fbwpiece.com.
FBWpiece.
That's one word.
Right.
.com.
And you have your own website, don't you?
Yes, I do, and it's www.frankiebwashington.com.
Great.
I'm not complicated, man. I try to keep it there because I thought about it because at first, you know, originally I was like, oh man, should I think of a company name? And I was thinking all this weird stuff, and I said, screw that, man, my name.
No, there you go.
The person who inspired me the most was Frank Miller. When he did Frank Miller's Sin City,
Right.
That's a start. I'm going to start doing that.
Say my name. Say my name.
That's right. Say my name.
So, any final statements you want to share with the listeners out there?
Oh man, God, just keep it real, man. Just don't give up. You know, follow your dream, man. It's out there.
Right.
You know, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of determination. But man, if you want it, go for it, man.
There you go.
It can happen, man. It's just that you can't look at it and be like, hey, it can't be always about monetary because in most cases you're not going to get the loot. Right. You know, not in most cases. So you got to have the passion and love for it.
Right.
And that's it, man.
Outstanding.
That's a wrap.
That's a wrap. Thank you, Frankie, for being on Catch the Craze.
Thank you guys, man. Oh, this is wonderful, man. I got to admit, I had a little butterfly because I've never done anything like this.
Right.
Yeah.
But you really, I enjoy talking to you guys, man. I could, talk to you guys forever, man, because we could definitely go back and forth about all the stuff from the 70s and so forth. But
right, and we're going to be at the National too, so we should.
Oh, fantastic!
We'll go out for drinks that Saturday night.
That sounds good. Hey, I gotta see if I can sneak away from the wife, man. She's gonna be there too.
You can bring her along.
Most definitely. You know she's coming, dude.
Yeah.
All right, guys.
Good talking to you.
Yeah, it was a pleasure.
All right, we're going to break for a moment, then we'll be back with our final submission of this show.
Do you like comics? Well, so do we. The Comic Book Novice. Each and every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 1240 WGBB and AM 1240 WGBB.com. Join comic book creator Mark Torres and his panel as they examine the current state of the comic book industry and interview professionals from the comic book field. That's the Comic Book Novice, every Thursday night at 9 p.m. here on 1240 AM WGBB and AM 1240 WGBB.com.
Hi there, I'm Duty from Uranus. If you haven't heard already, I am the star of There's an Alien in My Toilet, a fun adventure series by Crazy Comics. So stop by dutiesworld.com for all of your Duty adventures, and remember, it's all about duty. That's the Craze.
Ay caramba, it's a talking jalapeno. That's right, you heard me, a talking jalapeno. Watch as I, Herman the Chihuahua, goes after the talking jalapeno when he comes into mi casa. And there's an alien in my toilet part 3. You don't wanna miss this. Bye bye.
All right, wow, that was an interesting show. What do you think?
Very enthusiastic.
Yeah,
Yeah, I got a charge.
Frankie B. Wasn't there like a club singer?
Yeah,
back in the day?
Frankie B.
Yeah. He has the energy, he has the passion, but he's also realistic.
Yes.
You know, he says, you know what, I don't have the kind of money that these guys have. I don't have the kind of, the resources, so I'm going to do this on my time, on my dime, and I'm going to pace myself the way I want to.
I can relate to that.
Right.
Totally, yeah.
So what I get from him, it's like, it's almost, it's a self-pleasure type thing. It's like, I'm doing something that makes me happy, and hopefully it'll make other people happy to pick it up. Whether they pick it up or not, I'm still going to continue to do it.
Right.
And I'm still going to move forward. I'm not, and just at my pace, and that's realistic, and sometimes you when you have, we've had a lot of guests on the show, and sometimes you can tell that there's not a sense of realism when people are talking reality. It's, they have big hopes and dreams, but they're failing to realize all the buffers in place and all the possible obstacles or things that can go wrong. And they just assume that they're going to rule the world. And, it's refreshing to speak to somebody, and maybe it's the age factor, that has just a realistic sense of it. He understands he's a husband, he's a homeowner, he has a full-time job, and he's not going out there to dominate the universe. He's going out there to tell a story the way he likes it, and and hopefully people will appreciate it and see that.
Exactly. And like I said, I could definitely relate to all aspects of that, It's like a lot of us don't have it like that.
Right.
You know what I mean? But we still want to do what we love.
Right.
And we still have the passion.
Right.
Or we still try to keep it alive, even though we have, real world things going on.
Right.
Like a day job.
Exactly.
Like rent to pay. Like food to put on the table and clothes to put on your back.
Food.
Food. So,
I was just fighting this guy down the block for some scraps I saw in the trash can. I was like, give me that. That's mine.
Really? So, so, I could definitely relate to that. But yet you want to still keep it alive.
Right.
So, you got to do it for you.
Right. And you know what? I appreciate talking to my generation. Because they understand certain things that I guess today's generation doesn't, because they weren't exposed to what we were exposed to growing up. And when people, I guess when the younger audience hears someone like me talking, they're like, oh, you're just all like, you're just old. And it isn't that. It's just that when you look at it, when I grew up, it was sports. When I grew up, it was real cartoons. It was real stories to the cartoons. It was fun, cartoons, and your parents didn't mind you sitting there for hours watching your cartoons. And
right.
But there was activities, and we were out there, camping and hiking and running, racing and playing sports and baseball.
True,
and
very true.
And now it's all tech. When you walk, you see people. They have their mobile phones, they have their iPods, they have, their mobile DVD players, they have this, they have, everything's gadgets, and everything's, PS3, Nintendo Wii, everyone's hooked up to something that's, just like, and it's preventing...
There's no interaction anymore.
Yeah, it's preventing...
There really isn't.
There's no social interaction. There's nothing at all. It's just these are just blocks, and so that's why people don't know how to communicate. And that's why we end up in the problems that we have, because now these are the kids that's supposed to lead us tomorrow, and they can't even communicate with each other.
It's also a fear.
Yeah, and how are they going to communicate with foreign leaders? How are they going to communicate? You know what I'm saying? How do you communicate with it just, so that increased that fear, because when we were young, we interacted, we understood social settings, we understood playing sports and working as a team. We understood
it was
all
very
those
hands-on.
things. Right.
Yeah.
And you don't have that now. I mean,
Sure don't.
You don't even see the kind of family picnics that we had when we were kids.
No.
We used to go on the summer, every weekend we used to drive up to Bear Mountain. And we used to go to Seven Lakes, and we used to have barbecues,
Right.
and we used to be like,
Yeah.
we'd have fun, and I played for the was it 102 Precinct baseball when I was a kid.
A lot more activities driven.
Yeah,
a lot more.
I was on volleyball team, handball team, all these stuff. I was athletic. I was a bodybuilding team, and we did so many things.
Even something as simple as going outside and playing kick the can
Yes.
with the neighborhood kids.
Yeah,
You don't have that anymore.
even spin the bottle.
No, it's like you talk. Yeah, right. Well,
Was a group setting. 7 minutes in heaven.
that's another show.
But it was one of those things where, now you have to decide, do I really want to be in that closet with that person? Because I really want that person. And, but it's just, it was just weird. And but I appreciate Frankie B. I mean, from the moment we met him at it was a local convention, and the guy just, even then, he was passionate. He was just enthusiastic. And I don't know where he goes here. He drew a character of Duty, and which is actually going into the trade paperback.
Oh, excellent.
So and I'm actually gonna make an announcement about that too. But and he, it was just passionate. I was like, I want to have this guy on the show. And but you know what? I guess what happens along the line, you meet so many different people, and then sometimes you lose track. But he made it a point to say, I'm gonna stay in contact with you guys, and he did. And hats off to him, man. It's a very artistic. It's almost like when you go to the Museum of Natural History, it's like you can walk away with so many different interpretations of this book, like you do when you're looking at an abstract painting,
Right.
Because it plays on the reader.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So, and it's very like what is it? We watched it as growing up as children, Twilight Zone. Like very out there, artsy, artistic. It's like self-expression.
Right. Well, like I said, I got a very European comic kind of feel when I read this, and I was on the train reading it, and I'm serious. People were looking over my shoulder, and there were not many people on the train when I was coming home reading this, and I'm reading the whole kit and everything, and everybody's like, "What's that? What is she reading? She's so into it."
Right.
And
it's funny, you're speaking about the train. It's amazing how many adults read comics, which is really which is the larger demographic when it comes to collecting comics, which is why they're trying to get to the younger audience, but they're losing touch with what really catches them. But when I'm on the bus or on the train, I see so many men and women with suits, coming out of work, pulling out of their briefcases these comic books.
I love it.
Yeah, and
I get such a charge when I see that.
Right.
It's like,
exactly. And it's funny because every time I run into these people, they always have the mainstream guys, and I'm always with the independent. And there's the occasional cat that's like, what are you reading? Well, I'm reading this. Have you read Ultimates? No. Have you read this? No. Have you? No. Why not? I said, because I think the heart is in independence, and I'm always a promoter of independent books.
Right.
I'm like, you need to read this. This is hot. And like, for instance, I know Virgin Comics is, it's a conglomerate. And it's Virgin, they got the capital, they got the money, they got the resources, they got the reach.
Mm-hmm.
But in my eyes, they're still different. And I picked up Gamekeeper, and I thought it was brilliant. I loved it.
That was pretty good. Man.
I enjoyed that book. I was like, wow, and Death Dealer came out, and I'm a big Frazetta fan, and I'm like, I love Death Dealer, and I read it, and I was like, I gotta get the second.
I flipped out. I was John at Midtown, and I said, Death Dealer 1. John, what is this, man? And we're like looking at it, and it's like, I was like, I have to buy this.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know, Frankie B, my hat's off to you. You're a real cat. I can't
Kudos.
wait. I can't wait to hang out at the National and catch up again. And can't wait. Looking forward to seeing the second issue of Peace.
Here.
Keep up the momentum, guy, and visit fbwpeace.com or frankiebwashington.com. And on a side note, as far as Disney in My Toilet, the trade paperback, all you artists out there, if you want to, if you want to see your sketch or rendition of Duty in the trade, send it to me. Post it on the forum, send it to me to guest@castthecraze.com. Send me your rendition of Duty or any of the characters from Disney Under My Toilet, and it just might appear in the book. I'm actually going to pick about a dozen or so, maybe more, illustrations. I'm going to put it in the books. So far I have Frankie B's characters going in there, and David Keelis' characters going in there, and George Medina, his renditions going in there, and I have a few more people that emailed me about it. So if you want to see your rendition of Duty in there, your name will be, your name and your website will be alongside of it, and you'll get the credit for it. But it's going into the trade paperback. So with that said, thank you for listening to Catch the Craze.
Thank you.
I'm your host with the most, and I am here with
Michelle St. Martin.
the maniac. And that's us. And this was Frankie B. Washington. And thank you to our sponsors, Daystar Studios. And we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Yes.
Yeah, here we go. Just for my peoples out there. You know how we do. Said a 1, 2, 4. We're busting through the doors. The name is Catch the Craze, so we're bigger than before. The #1 show that's on the internet. There is no competition, so forget about the rest. We have the #1 spot, like it or not. The show is hot, it's gonna pop. Stop and listen and watch. From comic books to movies to music and poetry, the whole damn world is for the Craze, G. Catch the Craze, catch the Craze, catch the Craze.
Ha. That's what I'm talking about.